Hello, everybody. Oh, hi, Soul, Squigs, Gem's waiting for you to speak. Keepo, Carl, Alpha. God, lots of you already. Shard, Sam, Maritz.
Hello, everybody. Wow,
Hi,
this is probably the
darling.
most people we've had in at the very beginning, and we just had a quick call and said how tired we are and how we're going to make it a short one today because we're both knackered.
Oh, dear. That
Oh,
is so funny. Typical. Bloody typical.
how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Yeah, looking forward to this topic with yeah, we've got quite a lot to cover with this one, I think, because it's a hefty subject.
Well, it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Insecurity, criticism, and shame. Um, what's the opposite to? What is it? Does it exist? Is it all in our heads? I suppose that's all the things that we're going to speak about today.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so welcome everybody. Molls and I have been doing this for quite a few months now, and as some of you know, I've been on this journey with her. She's been helping me personally for the last couple of years, and we decided to help other people. So we've both been in crypto for 4 years. We've got lots of friends here, but we know that many people struggle with mental health, especially since the pandemic. So we started the Unminding project. It is free for all. We really enjoy doing it, and it's just really great to have all of you guys here. We've already got some really great questions, and normally we start off with Mel sort of explaining a little bit about how this is quite different to probably any other sort of therapy in inverted commas that you might have had before. A very, very different approach, and it, like I said, has changed my life, and whatever we can do to help others is why we're here. So Mo, let's take it away, and then let's try and fix some of these insecurities that probably don't need fixing.
Yeah, I was just about to say they don't need fixing, Gems.
Exactly.
They don't exist. Oh, thank you, Gems. I'm not going to go into too much about how it's different because we've been doing this for a little while now, and we cover it. And you can always go back to some older spaces or onto our SoundCloud page and really get an idea for kind of the depth of what we're teaching here. The reason that it is different is rather than looking at the content of the mind, we look at the context of the mind. So lots of therapies, or most therapies, in fact, which they can be helpful, but they're very often looking at what your mind is saying, the story that your mind has made up. They get into the character that you are, the past that you've had, the future that you imagine, and they really look at that content as if it's real. With this understanding, what we tend to do is we look at the content as not real. We look more at the fact that we have thought rather than the fact of what we are thinking. So this is the difference here. It's very much going to a deeper space than your mind. So the mind and your intellect and everything your mind says is the surface. And then if we go deeper, that's what we're looking at here. And it's in those depths that the mind actually heals. Because all of you will know that when you've been caught up in your mind and you've had conversations in your own mind with yourself to try and stop your thinking, control your thinking, make your thinking positive, that you've probably fallen further down the rabbit hole of your own thinking, because we cannot control thought. It's uncontrollable. You might be able to for a second, I'm going to concentrate on this, but at some point that within moments that's gone. Thought's doing what thought does, which is creating content. It's always creating content. So on this spaces, and I'd love to get involved with some of you on this, because it's a really interesting topic where you can bring where you're insecure, or where you feel you have any ideas around shame, or you feel that you're self-critical or people are critical of you and it really affects you. So if anyone has anything around that, just have a think about it, and maybe we can have a conversation around it. But these areas can be really potent for us. Insecurity is huge. I mean, anywhere where we feel self-conscious, anywhere where we feel upset, anywhere where we want something from the world that we're not getting is an insecure feeling. So insecurity is in fact a product of this content of thought and us believing that it's real. So anywhere where that identity gets challenged, actually, it's really interesting. We can really feel insecure where the ego gets challenged, and we want to protect that. That's the area where we sometimes close down and we go, oh, don't go there. That's my insecurity. I want to cover that up. I don't want that touch. Go over there. Look at that bit of me, not the bit that I feel insecure about. Maybe it's your image, maybe it's your, intellect, maybe just some area around where you just feel less than. And all of that less than comes from your own thinking and an identification with your thinking that ultimately isn't true. So where we come from with this understanding is we want to go back to the truth of experience. And the truth of experience is all of these insecurities, all of these feelings come through from your own thought system. They appear real. We identify with them, and then we get the feelings that match. So I'm not sure if we went through this last week. So I'm going to actually go on this point again, and this truth is that what you're thinking is what you are feeling. So when you have an insecure thought, you will feel insecure. When you have a shameful thought, you will have the matching feelings. When you feel guilty, you will have the matching feelings. So it's always about understanding that whatever it looks like in the world or your past or your future, and you imagine that that's what you're feeling, you're not. You're always, only, and ever feeling your thoughts in the moment, okay? So if thought is creating insecurity, that's how you're going to feel. And we all know that insecure feeling. It's like, oh, I don't want to be seen, or the cringy feeling, or in any way that it manifests. And we all, we're never going to be free of that. Like, I want to make that clear. It's not that I don't ever get insecure. I totally get insecure sometimes. But I have a deeper understanding of what it is. So it definitely happens a lot less. And rather than me having to go into my insecurity and work it out and work on it and do something about it, I truly understand that insecurity is a product of thought. And there's nothing for me to do with that insecurity other than observe it. As soon as I observe it for what it is, which is thought and not truth, an idea that my character is believed in, it gets to dissolve. Now, as I said earlier, it's those areas actually where we feel insecure, that we believe that the mind is saying what means the most about us, where it's the most truthful. It's not, but that's what we believe. It's the sticky areas. It's like, where does it look really real? Where does it look like I get really caught up? And again, it's that protectiveness. It's so interesting that we want to protect those demons and that darkness and that area. Like, we want to control it. We try to fight it. And that's the thoughts actually that get us into the most trouble. Because what we're doing is we're having the thinking, we're believing it's truth, we're believing it's saying something about us, we believe it makes us less than, and instead of observing it and opening up to it and seeing what it is, we shut down and we try to protect it, and we get into more trouble that way. We begin to think, well, that's the area where I could be a bad person, or that's the area where I have a bit of darkness, and I don't really want to acknowledge that. Society says I shouldn't have that part of me. I shouldn't feel like that. I need to be more than, not less than, and we cover it up. And we can cover it up with many, many different things. We can numb it, we can resist it, we can get busy to avoid it. We've all done all of those things. So it might be overspending, it might be too much time online, it might be drugs. I mean, it could be absolutely anything. But what you're doing from that space is just avoiding something that isn't true, and almost making it appear true by avoiding it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, because if you think about, by saying it's real and avoiding it, we're giving it a lot more power than it has if we just saw it as thought passing through. If we saw it as thought in the moment, that insecurity would have no power. Okay? The same is true of our self-criticism or the criticism we receive from others. We all have an area where, we're very hard on ourselves. It's the same thing. Or when someone says something about us, or we hear something about us, and we feel like that's true, instead of seeing that all of these things are there for us to see through them. Okay, when we see that any insecurity, any self-blame, any shame, any self-criticism is actually the energy of thought, where if we dive into it, if we really acknowledge it and open up to it, that we can go, actually, I can go beyond that. I can see beyond that. I can grow from that. I don't have to cover that up. That doesn't say anything bad about me. It just says I'm having that thinking, and that thinking can lead me to a depth where I can see more truth of who I am, see more truth of the human experience. Okay, so all these areas where it looks like darkness is the areas where we can see the most light. Okay, that's always true. Always, always, always true. There's nothing around any area that can ultimately be true in the sense of it's saying something about us. It's always going to be made up, because thought is always making things up. Okay, so it's the place where you resist and numb and avoid and get busy, all of those things, that really is where you need to look. And that can be that can be a brave thing to do. It can take a bit of courage to say, okay, I'm going to look at that, because it's often an area where we've felt the most pain around ourselves, the most vulnerability, and why would we want to go there? It looks like it's true, but when you do go there, you're going to get the most juice out of life. You're going to have your transformations. You're going to see yourself differently. You're going to see life differently. You're not going to be as held or as much of a victim around the things that you believe are true about yourself but are not. Okay, you're going to go, actually, that isn't true. Like, if you think about the nature of thought and the ego. So the ego creates the insecure feelings and thoughts as much as it creates the ones where you think you're bloody great. That's all the ego, and ego is really just personal thought. But so if we look at that, and you look at how much that changes so quickly, how we can observe the self from the view of the ego and be absolutely fucking amazing, and then be like the shit on the shoe. It's like it has to be untrue, because it can be so different from moment to moment. If there was any truth in what the ego was telling you about the self, it would always be the same, and it's not. It changes. It's all over the place. The wave of the thought of ego is telling you many different things about yourself. So all of those we start to see are just made up illusions. They're just things that we've had one thought that we've turned into a belief of self that we now allow to create insecurity. And that insecurity is your teacher. That feeling is ultimately your teacher. That feeling will say, hold on a minute, that isn't true. What can I see here? What can I observe here? Where can I go? So another way that we hold it in place is the judgment. Okay? So another really huge way that we hold about all our insecurities in place is the judgment of self and the judgment of others. Now, can you see that by judging the self and others, we're turning those insecurities into reality again? We're making them stronger. We're making them real. We're going, okay, I have that. Well, look at them. I'm going to judge them because I'm insecure. And it's so interesting. It's all the ego's games, making this flow of thought, which is like water, into these icicles that appear true. But once observed, those icicles melt and they turn back into the water and they flow through. This isn't this what I teach isn't an understanding where you have to work on the icicle. You have to know what the icicle's saying. You have to fix the icicle. It's as soon as the icicle is seen to be nothing other than the rest of your experience, which is made of thought, it falls back, it melts away, it dissolves, it becomes what it originally was, and it passes through. So this is what we are. This is who we are, and it's so interesting because that insecurity, those areas where we feel critical of the self or feel shame, is again where we cover up, where we do things to make ourselves bigger and better to cover it up. We're all the same. We're all absolutely extraordinary and ordinary. But when we feel this insecurity, when we feel this shame, when this inner critic wakes up, that's when we have to have the things in the world. We want the perfect relationship or things in the world. There'll be something that will attach to the world that we will use to cover up that feeling and try and make us feel better. It's almost like someone chopping your head off and trying to put a plaster on it. It's not going to work. It's ridiculous. It's it can't contain what you're looking for. It's not out there that you're going to find something to feel better. It might temporarily look like that or feel like that, but it's not truth. Where you turn inward, where you go within, where you go from this projection of this idea of the self, which is untrue and unhelpful, and then this projection of that self wanting something to fix that, and you really start to reflect and come home and go beyond that, you'll see yourself in so much of a healthier way, in so much of a truthful way. You'll see that you'll have such compassion for that self that gets lost and does those things. So if I get lost and then I look to the world to fix me, and then I wake up to what I'm doing, I don't feel guilt or shame about that anymore. What happens is I feel total compassion. Like, oh, bless! Like you really got lost there for a moment. That really looked real. The energy of thought really came in, and it really made that look true, and you really believed it. And it's like, oh, okay, wow. On to the next moment. I don't have to believe my insecure thinking anymore. There's an awakening happens. It really is. This work isn't only about mental health. This work is also about waking up. And you'll find if you look in this direction and you do this work, there'll be moments of insight that create an awakening that allow you to see the world differently. See, if you really saw what I'm talking about here, it would make absolutely no sense for you to beat yourself up after you got caught up, because you would understand exactly what happened. If you truly saw what I'm teaching here, and you had an experience, and it appeared really, really real, you would, and in a moment you came out of it, it would just be organic and natural. You'd come in and you'd come out. There wouldn't be this navel gazing or self-reflection all the time, or self-criticism, because you live much more in the flow of life. It's like you're in flow, and when it looks like you're not in flow, although I would say you still are, being caught up is part of the flow of life. It's just that we judge that moment of being caught up, and we say, oh, I wasn't in flow then. I mean, to me, it's impossible to not be in flow, because you are going from moment to moment, and you're having your experience of life coming from consciousness. Now, nothing is stopping that. Nothing can stop your experience. Your experience is your experience moment to moment until you are not alive anymore. And then God knows what happens. But for this understanding, for what we're looking at, the energy behind life, the energy of the human experience, is that it comes, we experience it, and then we're on to the next moment and the next moment. So how could we ever not be in flow? It's just that in the appearance of that humanness, we can feel really stuck. Life doesn't look like we want it to look. Life doesn't. Life isn't moving at the pace we want it to. Maybe we're not getting what we want, and we feel like that's life being wrong. And from my experience, and from working with people, and from all the things I've seen and done, I'm not sure life is ever wrong. I think again our judgment comes in and says this is wrong. It's our character applies its beliefs and opinions to an experience, and then says it was wrong or right. Where ultimately it's just experience. See, the principles always point back to the neutrality. So we have the neutrality of our own thinking, the neutrality of thought. Thought comes, thought goes. It's all neutral until we say that it isn't. And so that's true of the experience as well. Everything is neutral until we say it is or it isn't. It's good or it's bad. And that kind of takes us from the principles into the non-dual teachings of oneness, of the fact that everything in the world of form, so anything in the world of the material, of us, of experience, always has a polarity there. That the world is creation and destruction, good and bad, dark and light, yin and yang. That's the very nature of the human and of the human experience and of the universe. Okay, so we go even deeper. We start to see that. We start to see, wow, of course it's going to have an opposite, because it's in the world. It has to. We are creation. We are creation and destruction. We're born and we die. So of course that's going to be part of our experience too. We're going to have good times and bad times. But that's us applying our meaning to the experience. And as we always will, as I always will. Again, there's nothing where you're doing it wrong in the principles. It's you're always going to unfold. It's always going to be seen differently. You always can go a bit deeper. I mean, I had an insight on Monday, and after a little while, I haven't had something quite so deep happen for a little while, but I just had a moment where I saw it a bit deeper. I just saw this experience. I just went a little bit further into the depths of who I truly am, and something in that allowed me to see where I'd been a bit caught up, where I'd maybe placed some judgments that I hadn't seen, and that allowed a real deep opening in me for me to kind of go, oh, okay, this really is a never-ending understanding. This really is, because we're pointing to the infinite, we can see it infinitely. So imagine then we're talking about these insecurities of the self, this self-criticism, this how we look, how we act, what we're doing, how our business is doing, whatever it may be, wherever the area is that we feel insecure. But then we just go a bit deeper. We go below the surface of that insecurity into the energy that created that insecurity, which is thought. We go a bit deeper into that thought where it's neutral, where it's the energy that creates all life. And then we just go sink a bit deeper and a bit deeper into that until we're observing thought in such a neutral way that it's not affecting us, that we're completely at peace with our own thinking and with our world. All of that insecurity and criticism and shame we may feel doesn't exist. It's seen for what it is. It can't exist from that place. It can't stand up against that power of who we really are. It will always just dissolve. It does nothing. It has nothing to say. It becomes almost amusing from that space, because it's not true. It's part of this illusion that thought creates, that we believe that is just giving us a momentary experience. So again, the principles are always about going deeper. They're always, again, I don't need to go into your insecurity. I don't need to go into the depths of where it came from if you were like 8 years old, or 19 years old, or last week, whatever it is. Of course we can have a conversation around that, but you're not going to cure anything from that level. What you need to do is come to the depths and the truth of who you are, for it to be observed as an illusion, and then it's seen for what it is. And then this psychological freedom that we talk about on these calls is accessed. That psychological freedom is seen. So it's always going deeper. It's, again, for me on Monday, I just saw it a bit deeper. I can't really put it into words what happened, but I know I saw something deeper. I felt a shift. I felt like an emotion. It was there was something around it. It was like, okay, and I'm like 9, 10 years into this understanding, and I know that that's forever. I know there'll always be more for me to see. My ego might think, oh, you teach it, you've got it now. That's bullshit. I've seen as much as I've seen that I'm able to get on and talk about it and help people and point people home. But I'm not done. I know that I'm going to get to see more and experience more, and that's great. I don't want to be done. I want to see it more deeply. I want this brilliant, awesome, luminous energy of who we are to be experienced more by me. And that's the direction that we're always going in with this. It's in feeling the vulnerability that we really access our truth. It's in feeling the vulnerability that we really get to explore who we really are and come home to that. It's not by hiding it or making it shameful or covering it up. It's by exposing it. It's by putting it under the light of consciousness and truth. There's a Muji saying, it's this self is an illusion, but what does he say? I think it's going in search of the self is an illusion. You are already the self. You will purchase the map only to find you're already there. That's what it is. You're already there. We're all already there. We've just covered it up with so much thinking that has appeared true. So much unnecessary, unhelpful thinking. And when we get to see that, when we get to observe that thinking, we get to live from a different space. We get to come home. We get to not mind what happens. I don't mind what happens. I mean, I do and I don't. I tell you what it is actually. I mind what happens a lot less than I used to. Okay, so I can't say I never mind what happens. Of course, I'm going to have preferences. I'm a human, but the preferences are a lot less. The preferences used to be a lot. The preferences definitely aren't as many or as strong. And I know what the preferences are. I know their thought, and I know they're mainly bullshit too. So we get comfortable with the moment. We get comfortable with our experience. We get to see, we all have these thinking. We all have this thinking. We all have these insecurities. We all think these things. We all experience demons. We see that they're not personal. They're just part of the human experience. That really makes it easier for us to get to some space between us, our true self, and the insecurities, and see them for what they are. We begin to see the areas we avoid, the areas where we can grow, the areas where we will evolve the most. So yeah, it's the things that you came on this call, I really want to know about insecurity, criticism, and shame, begin to be those areas where, wow, I want to find those and see them for what they are. They're not scary. They're only scary because we've said they are. They're only scary because the ego says you shouldn't have them. When they say something bad about you, when they're seen as this energy of thought, and they can be observed and they can take us deeper into truth and give us a richer experience of life, not so bad. So it's such a juicy area. It's such an area where we can get to see so much. Insecurity is just thought that isn't true. How easy is that? How much easier is that to deal with than it being true and saying something about you that you have to work on every day, or do a mantra, or meditate on. It's just not true. So then it's if it's not true, what is true? What is true is that you are made of consciousness, that we are experiencing the neutral energy of thought, that we have peace and love and happiness and well-being within us every moment of every day of our lives. But we cover it up. How is it revealed? It's revealed by us just dropping below the surface of personal thinking. Just seeing personal thought for what it is, coming a bit deeper, and just coming home to that. And from there, we know that we're okay. How could you not be enough? We're all made of this amazing, infinite, creative energy. We know that. Even science says that. And then we think we're not enough, we're not good enough. That this energy isn't, that this energy that's created us isn't good enough. So we just come home to something a bit truer. We just know that we're already worthy. We don't have to do anything to be worthy. It's our nature. It's our innateness. It's our truth. So we don't have to go out there and try and grab things to fill us with worthiness, with love, with happiness. We just have to turn around and come home and have that moment of reflection and that moment of truth and those moments of insight, and it's revealed. The peace that you are is revealed. The freedom that you are is revealed. Not by believing in who you are, as in the personality or the character, but by challenging it. By saying, I wonder if there's something more to me than this person that I think I am. When you do that, when that part of your journey is revealed to you in life, then this is where you come to, or something like this, where you get to explore and you get to inquire into the depths of the truth of who you are, and something beautiful is revealed and life gets better. And again, that's what we're all here for. Yeah, it's beautiful to explore the unknown and who you are and the truth of your essential nature and your essential being. But ultimately, it's all about life getting nicer, life getting better, feeling happier. That's what we all want. And to me, this was what gave it back to me. For those of you that are new, I went through a long time of being lost in my mind and being unhappy. And then I found this 9 or 10 years ago, I think now, and it changed my life. And I know for Gem, it's been the same. And there's some other people I've worked with that hopefully I'm actually going to do. I'd like to do a spaces with some people that I've worked with over the last few years, and for them to chat about the difference it's made to them. So hopefully that will be in a week or two. I need to contact them. But yeah, just the proof is going to be in you. It's in your exploration. It's in you seeing it. It's in you just staying in the conversation and see what appears and see what insights you get. Not in just believing me and Gem, but pointing to it for yourself. And there's something, if you're on this call, that you already have an inkling that it might be true. You already have a knowing within you that there's something in this. And that knowing will just develop. And that knowing will get stronger and stronger. And for me, as I said, it's infinite. It's never ending. And as that beauty is revealed, you'll feel more peaceful. And the mind will calm. The mind will settle. And you'll feel more at home. So I've been talking for ages again. So I'm going to ask Gems to come in.
Wow. No, that was. Can you hear me through this one? I know.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you, darling?
Yeah, that was really wonderful, and it sounds like there is so much to hear, but it's the same message, just different ways of helping people to understand it. Because you'll know, like with me, there has been a few things that you've said that have just clicked with me, and I've said, can you say that again, can you say that again, can you say that again, and almost like, oh, wow. And I it's not always at the forefront of my head, but I will at moments go back to that one sort of comment or a story or an example that I know specifically works with me. And I think people will pick up things like that as they sort of listen into the conversation. And it's so relieving, one, to know that any insecurity, any shame, is complete bullshit. It's all made up. And yeah, it's just trying to get my words out to explain it. But I've just found that, you know, like a similar thing happened with me, and I became scared of my own thinking, and I was embarrassed and ashamed that I'd gone from being so sort of well and happy and successful in my head in the world, to then being sort of almost scared to sort of go outside and scared of being back in the real world. So it was a complete flip from sort of being one person to another. And I hadn't changed as a person, just my thinking had changed. And I had all of these thoughts that I'd over a short period of time had believed about myself, whether it was like a personal event a few years ago. And I was just like, oh, wow. And looking back on it, I only believed them for a moment, and they were true at the time for me, because I was living in it, and it was all of those insecurities. Although I know they weren't real, in that moment they were. And I can even just thinking about some of the things I thought about myself, I can feel myself getting hot now, thinking, God, it is so crazy to allow these different things to stick to you like labels, and then you carry them around, and then your sort of path of life changes because you think, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do that. So for me, yeah, I still have hang-ups, and sometimes I go back into, because when you've had that thought for a long time and you've believed it, yes, sometimes my mind will go back, and now I know that it's not true. It's very easy to sort of move forward. I don't have that holding on belief. But if it is, well, it is true for every single insecurity, every shame, any negative belief is all there to disappear, because it's not real. And I don't know if I'm explaining this the right way. I feel like I've rambled on, but it's to live your life knowing that you can truly do whatever you want, because none of this matters. When you have a real sit down and you're really so peaceful, and you're in that exact moment, you know, where we should, and where we're all sort of not trying to be, because then you're sort of pushing away again. But just in this very moment, I know I can do whatever I want in the world. And it's just it's great, because I don't have these boundaries that I'd set myself. And I know I can do anything. And I don't just want to do things for the sake of it. It's just very freeing. And I feel, like I've said before, I'm 30, but my life's only just beginning, because I've decided, fuck it, I'm all right. And I was always all right, but now is the time just to get on with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Don. That was lovely. Thank you. And I love what you pointed to there about the limitation. A limitation is a thought. That's it. So once the thought is seen for what it is, the limitation doesn't exist. So what are we without limitation? We are freedom. So again, it's where you said at the beginning of what you just said was that, well, everything's the same thing. Yeah, of course it is. It's all made of the same thing. It's all thought appearing real. And when observed, it dissolves. So we always have this opportunity of freedom. And the freedom doesn't come from the world. The freedom comes from within. So what you've seen, Jen, what's helped you has been just understanding more deeply, day by day, that thought is creating your experience, not the world. Now, within that, Gem's whole world is on the table to look different. It isn't one area. People will come to me with one area that may be a problem, and then they'll come back and say, well, I came to you because I was having a problem at work or in my business, but my relationships also got better. So you begin to see the totality of what we're talking about here. What we identify with, what we're insecure about, what we feel shame or guilt about, or we're self-critical about, is the same for all of us. It's not different. It can have the appearance of being different because we've made it up. But if we go a bit deeper, it's all the same thing. Thought appearing, looking real, us identifying with it, and that thought and identification creating a feeling. So simple. Now, when you understand that, what happens is, as soon as you may still get insecure, you're not wasting your time trying to fix the feeling, trying to find the cause, trying to change the cause, trying to work out what happened last week, trying to work out what you need to do to feel better. You go, oh, well, I feel a bit shit. Oh, well, I know it's thought, and it will pass, and you just do life. And that's what's different here. That's where you're not compounding the problem by saying it's real, by trying to fix it. Because ultimately there is nothing to fix. This is where we've all been lost. We've all been trying to fix ourselves, and we were never broken. And that, wow, when I saw that was like, oh fuck, what a relief. I'd spent years trying to fix me, and suddenly I didn't have to anymore. And that was just a revelation to me, because I'd been on that train of different therapies, of different ways and believing I was broken, and believing there was something that needed to be fixed. And once I'd fixed that thing, then I'm okay. Then life's going to be good. That was the carrot and the stick. I was never going to get there going in that direction. And the reason I wasn't going to get there, because I wasn't broken. I was just having thought appearing, telling me that, and thinking that it was true. All I had to do was have that first insight. So my first huge insight in the principles was seeing thought, was seeing every experience I'd ever had came from thought. Every problem I'd ever had came from thought. My whole mental health issues came from thought. That there was this energy, and I saw it. It was bizarre and powerful and funny and transformational. And in that moment where I had my insight, it was as if, that meme with the woman, and she's got the mathematical equation all around her and she's looking inquisitively. That's how I saw my own thinking. Suddenly all my thoughts were around me, and I could see them, and I saw that it was creating my experience. And in that moment, I transformed. I went from someone that had a mental health issue to someone that was mentally healthy. And that was because I suddenly saw that the mental health issue was made of that energy of thought that I was seeing. It wasn't truth. All that thinking I had that I'd become terrified of in my world wasn't true. It was just passing through. And that was just completely changed my life. It was the start of my exploration of this teaching. It was the start of my recovery from mental illness. And it was the beginning of me seeing something so deeply that I was able to help others with it, and am able to help others with it. And that's what we all are. This isn't just for me. It wasn't because I was special. It was nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that with Gem or to anyone else that hears it and changes because of it. What it is because we are all it. There isn't a person either that knows it or doesn't know it that isn't made of thought. Okay? Everything in your life is made of thought. Every experience is made of thought. Everything in the room you're in now was once a thought that somebody had an idea, and that thinking came through, and there was a creation that happened. So we start to see, it's a bit like in The Wizard of Oz, where everything looks the Great Oz looks powerful, and it's all outside, and they peek behind the curtain, and there's just a man there. In this analogy, the man is thought. Okay, we just peek behind the curtain. All this experience looks real and terrifying and wonderful and scary and awesome and all the things that we have that we experience in life. But one little peek behind the curtain and it's thought. And that doesn't diminish experience. It makes it richer. Okay, and that's something that you'll see as you go along. But we've been talking for quite a while now, so probably going to hand it over to some questions. But yeah, it's just in that seeing, that peeking behind the curtain, that seeing the truth of experience, that's a complete game changer for us and our mental health and our lives. And as I said, that isn't just for me and Jem. This is true for everybody. And this is why Jem and I wanted to share of it. We know how it can transform. We know that not everybody's going to find it if we're up there and we're kind of doing it in small groups and charging money and kind of keeping it exclusive. So for us, we wanted to open it up, do it for free, give it to everybody on Twitter that wanted to listen. And that's why we're doing this. And this is our purpose. It's a passion project and we love it. And thank you all for coming on as well and listening. But yeah, it's just so enriching. So and it's growing, and I think it is a new paradigm. I think we called this talk last week a new paradigm in mental health, because that's what it is, you know. And all of us on this call are probably into crypto, so we all love a new paradigm. So this is a paradigm of mental health, a new paradigm in psychology. And when they come along and when they really hit, they change everything. And I think in some ways, the three principles is very much a bit like Bitcoin, in the sense of it hasn't quite got hold yet, but when it does, it's going to change the world. And that's my belief around it, because it's so transformative, and it really does go from an outside in understanding and a way of psychology that was looking in the past at what the mind was saying and trying to work on that, and it transforms and flips it into an inside out understanding where it's all coming from us, it's all thought, and it's us and not the world. And I think that can sound like, well, how does that make that much difference? That is night and day. So I truly believe when this paradigm does really kind of gain traction in the world, it's going to be amazing. Because if we all understood that it was our thought creating our experience and not the world, and we're not a victim, think of how much better the world would be. You know, think of all the problems that would fall away. Think of all the fighting that would fall away. Oh, it's not you, it's me. Yeah. Oh, okay then. Well, we don't need to go in that direction and fight and have conflicts and have all, you know. And it can sound a bit utopian, but it's true. If enough of the world wakes up, then it will be a very different world. And if we can just be a little part of that, with this little pebble in the river with the ripple effect, then that's why we're here and that's what we're doing. So I'm going to hand back over to Jem.
Yeah, completely right. I mean, when something changes your life so much, I mean, obviously for you, that's how we met. But now for me, there's no way that I can't share this, because it's flipped my life. And it is just it's the reason that, you know, when something happens to you and you know that you're on the right path, this is my path. And if I can just help one person feel a bit better, then that's amazing. I spent a long time when I was younger, especially, like I wanted to be a child psychologist, and all I wanted to do was help people, because I know what it's like to feel awful. And now I can do that. So it's just thank you for allowing, well, for getting me to this place first of all, but now that we can do this together and help other people, it's really amazing. we did have some we had some requests earlier, but they've seemed to have dropped off now. There are some questions from the group, but if anyone is in the room that wants to have a quick chat, I'm not feeling that great today, so we weren't going to do it for too long, but we're nearly at an hour already, but we need to tap it.
It always does.
It
But
always does.
it always does. But yeah, let's do a little bit of the questions, and then if no one wants to speak, we can finish by 9, darling. That's fine.
Thank you, Jake. Well, let's go through, because you posted earlier saying let's talk about insecurities. And there were some quite interesting answers. So let's go with someone that we know. Let's go with Edge first, because Edge is always funny. I think he is in here now, but we don't know how serious this is, but it's going to be an issue for many people. So he's saying that his insecurity is his penis. So what do we do with that, Molls?
Oh, I love Edge. Well, I think I'm presuming he's joking, but if he's not, then just understand that his insecurity is still coming from thought.
Okay. So Edge, don't worry. It's not you, it's your thought. So there's nothing wrong with your penis, it's just your thought. So one thing that does come up quite a lot, which is really interesting, is being acceptance and happiness, basically being truly happy. Fear of failure. There's quite a few surrounding true happiness, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So a fear and insecurity around being happy. I think that one of those was from Bitty, and I think we're going to actually talk to him next week about it because he couldn't come on. Because I think something like that is really good to dig into for people rather than me kind of off the cuff say what I think. And we've probably kind of answered it anyway, but I think that would be really nice to dig into that because it did come up quite a lot with a few answers. So I think if we can get him on, which he said he would, he didn't know if he could do tonight, and obviously he hasn't come on, so he can't. And maybe we can go a bit deeper with that next week. So we can do a fear of being happy would be a great topic for next week.
I think that's a brilliant one because you'll know, Miles, I struggled with that in the beginning, and it was, I think, there's no point in me trying to work it out, but I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy. So I was going round in circles. I was trying to be happy, but deep down I thought, do you actually deserve to be happy? So it was kind of I was always pulling myself in two directions. So it's, a huge topic and really, really interesting. We have Soul, who has requested. Soul is our sidekick, and he's always in our Telegram group. He helps us out with lots of different things to do with the OneMinding project. So we bring Soul up, but like I said, anyone else is welcome to ask any questions. If you don't want to speak, you can just DM me and I can read it out for you. It's not a problem.
Hi, Soul.
Welcome.
Hi, lovely. How can we help you today?
No, I just had some thoughts about, I was just thinking over the whole space tonight and insecurity, criticism, shame. To me, it all kind of, we've kind of touched on it before, but a lot of it is you hear something or you feel something and you begin to build this story or this narrative around it. And like you said, it's just thought, but you attach or you let it attach itself to you or yourself to it, and it just kind of builds and becomes like this habitual thinking that you do whenever you feel something or you see something. And I just had this quote from a guy named Pablo Sender. And the quote is, "We can't concentrate on too much of any part of our being. We know this when we concentrate too much on our thoughts. We can become overwhelmed by them. If we concentrate too much on the thinking, we lose sight of the other information about ourselves you lose sensitivity to other information that are not thoughts. So this is, imbalance. And we are only focusing on one aspect of our being. This is true whether we're focusing on our thoughts, which is our mental being, whether it be love, our emotional being, or whether it be our body, our physical being.
Beautiful. What do you hear when you read that? What does it mean to you? So?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So what does it mean to you when you hear that?
Well, initially, whenever I heard Pablo Cinder say that, of course, I thought of the three principles. How
Yeah.
we can't just concentrate on the thought, because again, it just builds. It has a snowball effect about it. Whatever you put your
Yes.
attention to grows, and so
Absolutely.
we can't just concentrate on the thought, especially if it's a bad, or what we would consider a bad thought. And so he says, we can't concentrate on any one part of our being. And of course, you can't just sit there and think and think or worry all day. You need to take a step away from that, whether it be in doing something. Again, you need to take your attention off of it, and whether that be by doing something or by simply just letting the thought go and then putting your mind somewhere else, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was lovely. I would just my point that I would make around it was it's just allowing thought to do what thought does. When we do that, when we see it from the depths of the principles, we're not going to add too much, and we don't have to add anything, and we don't have to do anything with it. We can just see. It's a bit like a ticker tape on the screen. It's just going to come and go. We just don't have to read it. So yeah, it's really beautiful, and yeah, I really liked it. So thank you. And it's just that slightly deep. Take it slightly deeper in the fact that we don't really have to do anything about it. It's just going to do its own thing once we understand the true nature of thought. Gems? Oh, have I lost Gems? Oh, this is where we get tech issues. Right, let me remove from co-host and add her again. Okay, yes, there's so much to see here. This is what we have to remember. This is the totality of this. The infinite nature of this means that there's always more. There's always more. It's just. Sorry, I'm trying to do tech at the same time. I'm not very good at it. Gems, are you there? I'm having some gem problems, and this is where she's supposed to take over at the end. So let me see what I can do. So I have a lovely quote to read. Well, I'm going to invite Soul to co-host, and then hopefully he can sort Gems out.
We're good.
So this is. Oh, you're there! Yay! I was like, oh, not at the end where you take over. Oh, anyway, I will carry on and read the quote, and then I think you're going to take over, Gem, and I believe we have some music. Is that right?
Next week.
Oh, that's next week. Okay. Okay, well, we can tell them about the music that we've got next week. Anyway, so this quote is: In the silence is infinity. Infinity is space, bliss, absolute awareness, ultimate oneness. Whenever you think, you stop the reality from flowing by your thoughts. Whenever your mind is quiet, calm, still, like a motionless lake, then you reflect your own divinity. So I think that really points to what we've been talking about here, is that when thought comes, when we're really caught up in it, we are, as I said earlier, we are still flowing, but it doesn't appear that way. But we're caught. We're the water isn't calm. We're not seeing the reflection of the truth of who we are. When the mind calms and we drop below the surface of that water into the depths, below what the intellect is telling us that may be true that isn't, then suddenly we get calm, we get quiet, we touch that space, we touch that bliss. And that's where everything that we're looking for is. And it's just pointing to that and knowing that that's true. That there's nothing outside of you that you need to be whole. There's nothing outside of you that you need to be happy and peaceful. That everything that you're looking for is just dropping below the surface into the depths of the truth of who you are, and it will all be revealed. So, as we've had no more requests, we're going to actually finish nearly just over time slightly, which is very unusual. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate you all. This will be recorded, so anyone that joined late, I do think that listening to this one from the beginning will be great. We've also got lots of others, and I'm sure Jen will go over, but we've got our Telegram group, and all the recordings are in there as well. And I will hand over to Jen, and she can say goodnight.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody. It's been a really, really great chat. And I think we've already figured out what we're going to speak about next week from today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to this one back as well, because there were some points that you said, Molls, at the beginning that I want to hear back that I've heard in a different way today. So yeah, thank you all for being here. We really couldn't do it without you, and you are the reason that we're doing this. We are the reason we're doing it. It's all about oneness, energy, and we want to allow people to allow themselves to feel as good as possible. So we have our Telegram group, which is t.me/unminding. There's someone always in there to speak, and really, really nice and friendly people. Obviously, we do this every Thursday at 8:00, but we have been doing some sort of impromptu ones. We did one on Valentine's Day with the Lost Boys, which is all about sort of love and mental health. So all the recordings are up. We've been really lucky this week to have some donations from some of our friends, actually, that started projects. Some of you all know Arc Crypto, who makes the skulls. He's actually just brought out the derivatives of Bored Apes, which is BOARD apes. They're really super cool. They've sold out straight away.
They are brilliant. They are really brilliant.
I think we've got Metals was in here earlier, and he had one as his profile picture. There's really cool. I think there's only 2,001 of them. So yeah, really lucky that he's fortunate that he's donated 2 of them to our project, which is lovely. We've known Art for about 4 years, so time zone differences, but we are going to try and do like a 20-minute chat with him at some point where we can share about his project. And then we've got Andreas, who was donated one of his foil NFTs, which are really, really beautiful. We'll share some links and check out his work as well. But we, like we said, this is a free project, and everything that we're doing is to basically set a foundation to allow the happiness, because it's very needed, and we know what we're doing is making a difference. So I've popped an article up the top. There's some really good books that you can order that can teach about the 3 principles. Any donation addresses as well are on there. So any support, please reach out to us. Just have a chat that you need. But yeah, we're here for you. We're sponsored by Cope, and yeah, we just look forward to doing this every Thursday. Once we get on, actually, I don't like saying bye sometimes.
I know, and I just want to also thank Ark and Andreas for those NFTs that have gone into our kind of vault of donations, and that was really kind of them both to send us those. And we do run the project on donations, so you know, if anyone has anything that can help us or can contact us to any projects, that'd be absolutely wonderful. But yeah, we're just here for you. Anyone that needs us anytime, in the groups, in the chat. And also, obviously, I have my private practice. If anyone would like to work with me privately, then obviously get in touch. And thank you to Gem for being a wonderful co-host, and thank you to Sol for always being there as backup. You know, you're a beautiful human, and yeah, thank you everybody.
And we hope, well, we will see you next week, but me and Molls are about to enter, well, it's not too bad near where you are, but we've got a big storm hitting the UK today, 100-mile-an-hour winds. So hopefully we won't get blown away tonight.
Batten down the hatches, Gem.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, yeah, thank you again, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful week, and just reach out if you need anything at all. Lots of love.
You're not alone. We love you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.